That pathetic little shack you call a cabin. It's coming down Monday, island boy. That's what she said, the first words out of her mouth at 5:43 in the morning, slicing through the lake fog like a chainsaw through Sunday silence. And there she stood, Margot Blackthorne herself, HOA president, draped in a neon fuchsia suit that looked like an accident in a paint store, standing on my dock, waving a freshly painted sign like a battle flag. Blackthorne Estates Private Island. No trespassing. Behind her, 3 guys in safety vests, gripping crowbars and sledgehammers, looking more like a prison crew than your average neighborhood volunteers, and that monstrous 60-foot yacht purring right up against the dock, blocking any way off the island. The whole scene felt so staged it was almost funny, except it wasn't. So there I am, yesterday's flannel, bare feet on wetwood, watching these folks act like they own the place, while my family's 12 acres of wild Minnesota paradise, worth $8.2 million if you ask the tax man, sits behind me, bristling with 7 brand-new, private property signs hammered in a neat arc, like the Big Dipper. Real cute, I thought, raising my phone to record, because after 15 years drawing maps for the U.S. Geological Survey, you learn, document everything, especially when your grandfather's maps from 1947 show things this HOA really doesn't want public. Let me back up a sec. Margot's face, frozen in some kind of Botoxed panic, went pale when I mentioned those maps. She didn't know I'd spent years mapping war zones for the military, memorizing every cave, every ridge, every hidden detail most folks would never spot. She had no clue about the steel door under the old boathouse, the one my grandfather sealed in '52 with instructions. Open only if the vultures start circling. Well, here they were, circling hard. And before you say this is just a local squabble, where are you watching from? Because I bet HOAs are running wild wherever you live too. Drop your country in the comments. Trust me, you're not alone. The big guy with the hard hat, Demo Dave, turns out, steps up with all the confidence of someone who's never faced real consequences. Mr. Mallister, we're here on official HOA business. This island is now community property under the Blackthorne Estates Covenant of 1995. I almost laughed, almost. But 15 years working with federal agencies taught me, never lose your cool. I took a sip from my maps don't lie, people do mug. Let the silence stew until they got nervous. So you're saying, I finally said, an HOA that didn't even exist until '93 somehow claimed ownership in '95 over Navy land my family's owned since 1952? Direct transfer, presidential authorization. That got Demo Dave sweating. What none of them knew was I'd spent the night combing that sealed bunker. And what I found? Enough to send 3 people to federal prison, easy. Margot tried to recover. She's had practice, steamrolling neighbors for 14 years. Young man, I don't know what fantasy your grandfather sold you, but this lake and everything on it is under the Blackthorne HOA. I'm president, and you got 1 hour to remove your stuff before demolition. I made sure my phone caught her face. Ma'am, threatening to demolish property on federal land is a felony. Falsifying documents for federally transferred property? That's up to 20 years. Are you sure you want to keep talking while being recorded? Her sidekick, Clipboard Chuck, her brother-in-law, apparently, piped up about being a county inspector. I cut him off. No, you're not. Real inspectors have badge numbers. And they don't work at dawn on Saturdays. You sell insurance, and that clipboard's from Office Depot. Price tag's still on the back. Chuck's hand twitched to check. Gotcha. Suddenly, Margot's yacht sounded a horn, 3 blasts. Within minutes, 7 more boats arrived, packed with board members and HOA faithful. An aquatic invasion, the whole suburb come to conquer my island. But I kept recording. Impressive Navy you got there. Too bad the DNR requires a permit for mass watercraft gatherings. Did you file one, Margot? Because that's another felony. Her eye twitched to tell. This is public water, she snapped. I just smiled. Federal oversight since '43, Margot. Navy installation. You keep telling lies, but it doesn't make them true. Now the sun was up, burning away the mist, and I could see what they'd done overnight. 7 signs in the Big Dipper, yellow tape strung between trees, fake property line spray painted on ancient rocks, even a section of chain link across the path my grandfather carved by hand in '55. But the boldest move? A huge sign at the dock. Future site of Blackthorn Community Pavilion, weddings, events, opening summer 25. Managed by Blackthorn Island Experiences, LLC. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about community. It was about money. Big money. So I called out to Demo Dave. Before you swing, you should know your boss has been running illegal events here for 6 years. 67 weddings at $25,000 a pop. Corporate retreats, fashion shoots, documented on Instagram, 45,000 followers. My island in every shot. That's $3.2 million, all funneled through a Cayman account, unreported. How do I know? Because Margot used the same laptop for HOA and her secret business. And 3 months ago, she live-streamed a board meeting and forgot to close her tabs. I was one of 2,300 people who saw. Suddenly, all those folks on the boats were recording Margot, not me. The tide turned. And then blue lights, Deputy Garrison Pike's patrol boat, pulling up at 6:15. Siren off, classic Minnesota courtesy. Pike looked like a former linebacker who discovered craft beer, tired eyes, but sharp. Got a call about trespassing and property damage. Someone want to explain. Margot leapt into action, heels clacking, finger jabbing. This man is claiming ownership of community property. He's threatening us. Pike, cool as a cucumber, asked for documents. Margot produced the covenant, waving it like gospel. Pike turned to me. You got proof. I reached into my waterproof bag, old habit from Afghanistan. Original deed from 1952, Department of Navy transfer. Federal registration number. Tax records, 72 years of family ownership, and the original 1947 survey map. Pike studied them a good while, then looked at Margot. Ma'am, these federal documents supersede any HOA covenant. This is private property. Margot lost it, voice cracking, face green. But we've been maintaining this island, invested hundreds of thousands. Into what? I shot back. All you built are illegal structures for your wedding business. And by the way, Pike, did you know your late father's signature appears on a 2015 document approving HOA use? Because he died in 2009. Pike's face hardened. Silence. Even the birds seemed to listen. Just when you thought the drama peaked, Margot called her brother-in-law, Judge Clarence Blackthorn. Nepotism's family tradition here. He rolled up 30 minutes later, boat as fancy as a suit. Deputy Pike, I can issue an emergency ruling. Respectfully, Judge, you can't rule on your own family's case. Conflict of interest so obvious a first-year law student would laugh. Before he could respond, a woman on one of the boats stood up, Beatrice Hong, former HOA treasurer, clutching a USB drive like a grenade. I can't do this anymore. 5 years of board meeting recordings, Margot talking about this island, the money, everything. I recorded it all. Margot shrieked about NDAs, but Beatrice fired back. NDAs don't cover crimes. You threatened my daughter's scholarship if I talked. Well, she's at MIT now, full ride, and I'm done being scared. She tossed the drive to me, muscle memory from years in combat zones, let me snag it midair. This has 127 audio files, Beatrice said, including one from March 2019 where Margot says, Thomas Mallister had to go. Arsenic is the only solution to a pest problem. The crowd gasped. Demo Dave set his sledgehammer down for good. Pike was already calling backup. Now here's where the twist comes in. Everyone followed as I led them to the boathouse where Margot's crew had already knocked a hole in the wall, exposing the old steel door, U.S. Navy stenciled in white, serial number TS 1943. I unlocked it with the key my grandfather left me. The stairs went down into a concrete room with a massive safe, walls lined with ancient files, and in the center, a folder stamped classified eyes only. I opened the safe, combination was my grandfather's service number. Inside, a map from October 1943, signed by FDR, marking the island as federal property. The next document, Executive Order 9981, signed by President Truman, transferring ownership to my grandfather for his service, with a clause, preserve the historical integrity of the site. Margot tried to leave, but Pike blocked her. Then I found more, correspondence from 93 to 95. Letter after letter from Margot's father-in-law, trying to buy the island, escalating threats. The last 2 weeks before my grandfather died. Take $800,000 cash or face the consequences. My grandfather's reply, the island is not for sale at any price. Your threatening letter is filed with the FBI. Do not contact me again. I called the FBI last week. Turns out, threatening a federal witness is still a big deal. Just then, the radio crackled. Detective Morrison, en route with the forensics team, and the FBI not far behind. This is now a crime scene. Everyone out. Back in the sun, Margot made a last play for sympathy. He's going to develop condos. Your property values will tank. I said, actually, this island will become a public park and museum, free for all Sterling Lake residents. Just like my grandfather wanted. The crowd went quiet. Then Walter Finch, Marine Corps cap and all, stood up. I served with Thomas Mallister. Most honorable man I knew. Margot, you brought him tea the day he died. Maybe it's time the FBI tested that cup for arsenic. Margot collapsed on the dock. Suit deflating, dignity gone. The FBI rolled in. 3 black SUVs, suits everywhere. Special Agent Mitchell thanked me, took my evidence, and told Margot not to leave town. Then the dominoes fell. Chuck confessed he was never a county inspector. Dave admitted Margot hired him to destroy the boathouse and bunker. Brittany, Margot's assistant, revealed she'd been live-streaming everything, plus caught Margot on tape saying, if he doesn't give up, we'll do to him what we did to his grandfather. The crowd pulled back from Margot like she was radioactive. Detective Morrison read the charges: fraud, falsifying documents, trespass, conspiracy, and pending investigation murder. Margot made a run for her yacht, tripped, went down hard, and that was the end of her reign. As they cuffed her, I realized the truth really does come out, sometimes all at once. As the sun rose higher, the community came together like never before. Champagne was popped. Old feuds were forgotten. At the emergency HOA meeting, I showed Truman's order and the museum plans, free admission, memorial gardens, paths, picnic areas. Beatrice was elected new president, promising transparency and service. Illegally collected fees were refunded. Stories poured out. Families fined for decorations, forced sales, lies upended by Margot's petty tyranny. That evening, I sat in my grandfather's cabin, reading his last letter. If you're reading this, Tad, they made their move. They always do. This island's about more than property. It's about honor, history, truth. He told me where to find the last insurance policy, a hidden panel behind the 4th cabinet. Inside, affidavits, bribe records, Margot's own medical files showing arsenic poisoning 2 days after my grandfather died. She got sloppy. By noon, the FBI's command center was buzzing. The case exploded: fraud, bribery, murder. Margot was denied bail. The judge faced disbarment. Chuck testified, bringing the whole scheme down. I stood before 342 HOA members, explained the truth, then dissolved the board by unanimous vote. The whole lake cheered. 3 days later, the feds raided Blackthorn Estates. 37 homes, millions seized. The teacup tested positive for arsenic. Other suspicious deaths were re-examined. But even in all this darkness, something good bloomed. The community was free, united, hopeful. Demo Dave volunteered to build park benches. Walter and his old Navy friends joined the museum board. The first celebration on Mallister Island drew 500 people, families picnicking, kids swimming where Margot once forbade them, veterans honored by a memorial stone. Months later, I got a call from the Navy's history department. My grandfather had left blueprints for a second bunker. Beneath the cabin, we found uranium samples, enemy research, and gold certificates worth $42 million. That money established the Thomas Mallister Foundation, offering legal aid to families fighting HOA abuse, funding scholarships, and preserving the island forever. Beatrice led the new HOA. The museum opened to the public, and Margot's legacy became a cautionary tale, proof that greed and lies can never outlast courage and truth. If you made it this far, drop a comment. What would you do if this happened in your neighborhood? Ever fought back against an HOA, a boss, or a bully? Share your story, because the only thing that stops tyranny is folks willing to say, "Nice try, but I have the receipts." And every sunset, as the loons call and the water turns to gold, I remember, this island is about something bigger: honor, legacy, and the simple, stubborn truth.